Since the dawn of time, sports media has been stuck in a vicious cycle of monotony and skip bailiffs. Then one day, three brave souls embarked on a journey to change all of that. Welcome to the Comeback Kid.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, November 27, 2017, and you are listening to The Comeback Kid. I am your host, Ben Friedel, and alongside me, as always, Nate Wiggins, Matt Hendrickson, the dynamic duo. What is going on, you guys?
I've had better weekends, and I will leave it at that.
That is 2 straight weekends, Nate, that you have not had a good weekend. I expected more from you, honestly, but you know what? It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. What about you, Matt? How you doing?
Outside of Friday afternoon and seeing the Ducks get blown out, I think it was a pretty good weekend. I mean, we got to see the Chargers win, which was amazing. I'm sure there were other results from football that were notable, but I was pretty happy about the Chargers.
Yeah, you and me went to the Ducks game this past Friday, and I don't know about the Chargers win being a good thing, Matt. That might be Monday morning brain for you. That just popped out somehow. But, yeah, and I had a good weekend as well. Went up and hung out with you. We went to the Ducks game. My first Ducks game ever. Even though they lost, it was cool atmosphere. It was cool to see the stadium practically full on a Friday afternoon, Black Friday. So that was exciting. So what is this show about, in case this is your first time listening to The Comeback Kid? So every Monday at 9 a.m., we hope to talk about sports and stories that may not get enough attention on major sports networks. This includes sports such as soccer, baseball, hockey, and other sports that we might find interesting as well. And most importantly, we want to talk about these sports and stories that we want to talk about outside of the quote-unquote mainstream media, I guess, not to sound super, political, but with kind of with sports in that way. But yeah, so guys, I think we have a pretty, speaking of political, pretty pertinent story for our first segment here today. So LiAngelo Ball. LiAngelo, he is the second-born son of the Lavar Ball family of the Ball franchise, I would say. Big baller brand, right, Nate? And LiAngelo and his UCLA Bruins college basketball team were on some kind of marketing PR trip to China, where they went and played exhibition games in China. And this is apparently how big college sports have gotten. They've reached this global sphere. And while LiAngelo was in China, he thought it would be a great idea to go into Gucci or Prada or Louis Vuitton or whatever store it was and shoplift. So he went into the store, took something, he got caught, and the Chinese police or government, whatever, caught him, and he was therefore placed on house arrest in the team hotel. And if you're asking me, I would think there's a lot worse house arrests that could have happened. He was probably in a very nice hotel. And so a little bit of background about stealing in China. So stealing to this extent is considered a quote-unquote like heinous crime. There's a 99% incarceration rate, apparently. That I think is debatable in and itself. And sources such as the President of the United States thought that LiAngelo Ball would be spending 10 plus years in prison. So guys, this is when we come into the picture here. Why, in your guys' opinion, would LiAngelo, a kid who is a son of a fairly affluent family, especially given recent events with the success of the Ball brand, why would he steal from a store where he could have just bought what they have already?
Well, I think that with the Ball brand and the Ball family, and I think you can make an argument with college athletics in general, there's this huge sense of entitlement given the way that college sports have just completely blown up in this country with all the money that's in college sports, all the money that the NCAA makes, all the money that these universities make. I think that there's definitely a sense of entitlement, which, it's interesting because you said that, yeah, this is definitely something that he could have afforded to buy, but I think because of that sense of entitlement, that's why he chose to steal. And I'm not trying to hate on LiAngelo as a person. I don't know LiAngelo as a person, but I just think that there's definitely a sense of entitlement with him and with a lot of college athletes.
Ben, when you said the word heinous, I immediately thought of the Law and Order intro. So, boom, 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 boom. I really don't know what I could say that's different than what Nate said. I mean, the idea is that, I think athletes, especially college athletes, are getting the idea sooner that they are something big, and I don't think there's any excuse for what he did.
Yeah, so you mentioned that college athletes are, in your words, getting the idea that they are something big. And should they deserve to think that way, though? Because, Nate, as you mentioned, the influx of money in corporate sponsorship into collegiate athletics is just skyrocketed in the past 5 to even, 10 to 5 years, right? So my question to you guys is, do you guys basically think that there's a problem, right? So the problem is that in collegiate athletics, corporations and corporate sponsorships are gaining more and more influence as time moves forward. We see high school recruits being influenced into their ultimate college where they decide to attend purely based on sponsorships. For example, when we were prepping, I brought up the example of Josh Jackson. Adidas came to Josh Jackson and said, hey, go to KU because KU is an Adidas school. You'll go to KU, and then once you go to the NBA, you'll have an Adidas sponsorship waiting for you when you graduate from college. And placing that kind of pressure onto an 18-year-old kid and offering them, millions and millions of dollars just right out of high school in that way is, I think, an immense amount of pressure. So my question is, do you have any recommendations as to how to fix this somewhat broken under the table system?
Yes. I've been saying for about 6 or 7 years now that college athletes need to be paid, because I think that I think it's honestly just very unfair to these players that make literally millions of dollars. In some case, I think Ohio State's football program makes $1 billion for the university and for the athletic department. And those players, they get nothing. And I hear the argument, oh, well, they're getting a free education, but I don't think that that's a very good argument to say, I don't think that's a good argument against these athletes getting paid. I think that they deserve some type of benefits for all the money that they make the university and all the money that they make the coaches. I'm pretty sure Jim Harbaugh is getting paid $4 million a year to coach football at Michigan. I love Jim Harbaugh, but the fact that he's getting paid $4 million a year and that his players that are busting their butts are getting absolutely nothing, I think is totally unfair. So I think one of the ways that to fix this broken system, I'm not saying it's perfect, there's still going to be problems, but I think that you have to at least give the players some type of monetary benefit.
So there's the concept of the one and done, I think, which has become very prevalent in recent years, especially in college basketball, where players will attend college for their freshman year because I believe it's an NBA requirement. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to college, but you have to be, I believe, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that's why certain international players are able to come. Don't have to go to college if they come to the United States to. They can go straight from wherever they were playing in their various countries to the NBA because it's an age requirement, not necessarily the idea of going to college.
Yeah, so this age requirement is indirectly forcing these players to attend a college that they're not going to get their degree from, especially if you're a top college recruit. We saw, I believe, 12 to 15 years ago when players like LeBron James were coming up, right? He never went to a 4-year institution. He went straight into the NBA out of high school, and so there wasn't the same kind of collegiate pressure there in that circumstance. And it's very visible how successful he is now. So I think, and there's people on the other side, and I guess I'll play devil's advocate here for a second, that if we fix this one and done system, then players will place more value in their education. I've heard that argument before. Instead of we could get rid of college being a requirement, and for those who decide to go to college and maybe potentially have a one and done mentality in their mind, they wouldn't be able to do that anymore because they would have to stay for at least 3 years or maybe 4 years, maybe increase that age, or that you need to have at least completed a certain number of units in college to make it to the NBA or so on and so forth. So I've heard that argument before. How would you respond to that argument, Nate?
Well, I don't think it would be good for the student athlete to have to like say, okay, you're like forced to go to college, and why are we even making them go to college? It's not because, like you said, it's people talk about the education argument, but it's really not about the education. The way I see it as the reason why players are not allowed to go from high school to the NBA, the reason why they have to attend a year at college is literally just to make money for the universities, for the athletic director, for the coaches, and for the NCAA. That's the way I see it. So this idea that, they're going to college because they're getting an education, I think is a bunch of crap. I think it's all about making money for the NCAA. The NCAA is unbelievably corrupt. Not as bad as FIFA, but the NCAA is so corrupt. I mean, it is just terrible.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, how corrupt NCAA is, not only on the monetary side, but coaching scandals left and right. Rick Pitino recently, you had all the stuff at Penn State a number of years ago. It's just the NCAA is a mess. And I think that a step forward, and I think we can all agree here, a step forward in the right direction is fixing this broken college, I would say especially college basketball system of, the one and done. And because then the thing is, the NCAA doesn't want to do that, though, because that significantly diminishes their quote-unquote like on-the-field product that they have. So it would have to take a fairly, I would say gracious, but, the NCAA is technically an academic institution. Yeah. So like their purpose is to serve on an academic level as well as athletics. So you would think with that goal in mind that they would be a lot less monetarily driven. So yeah, I definitely think that corporate sponsorships have played a part in this entire dynamic of college athletes thinking they deserve more than they actually have, and it brings up the question of if they actually do deserve that money. So bringing it all the way back to LiAngelo, right? So LiAngelo, he's home, he's safe, he's back in Los Angeles or wherever he is.
But he is. Let's make a point that he is. Him and the other two players are suspended indefinitely right now. They're not even allowed to dress with the team. They're not allowed to travel with the team. So, they're back in the United States, but it's not like they got off completely scot-free.
Mm-hmm. And Nate, we were talking about this also when we were prepping that Lavar, he didn't react too horribly to this, that his son was on like house arrest. Do you want to respond to that, or tell us a little bit more about what Lavar had to say about his son being placed under house arrest?
Well, let me preface it by saying that I absolutely love LaVar Ball. I think that he is awesome. I think that just the way that he's been able to build this big baller brand, I think is very respectable. But he was not actually too worried about LiAngelo. I think he actually said it was no big deal, and I think after he said that, I'm sure that he got a call from a few lawyers saying, "Hey, like, don't say anything else. Let's just have you take a step back on this one, because this is something that's happening in a foreign country with different laws than us." So it's funny. My mom said we finally found a way to shut LaVar Ball up, and I thought that was very funny, because as anyone who follows sports knows, LaVar Ball does like to talk.
Definitely, yeah. And part of the reason why it is portrayed to us and the general population that LaVar maybe wasn't too concerned is that CNN called LaVar up because, I know, and then it was bound to happen at some point, gentlemen. Donald Trump versus LaVar Ball, the two biggest social media behemoths, they were too big not to meet at some point, and it happened. So Trump tweeted like at China or at some.
So he called the president of China apparently.
Yeah.
A few days later they were released. They were back in the United States, and then LaVar Ball was asked about Donald Trump's did he help, and LaVar Ball responded by saying who. And then a few days later, Trump tweeted that he should have gotten thanks from LaVar, and that he should have left LiAngelo and the other two players in China.
Yeah, so I think, again, I'll play devil's advocate. I am not advocating for Trump in any way here. However, in Trump's perspective and other people's perspective, if Trump didn't make that call, we could have potentially, LiAngelo could have still been in China. So in both of your opinions, did Trump deserve thanks for this?
No. So I think what Lavar ended up saying in the interview, I think is so true and such wise words from an amazing man.
The Oracle.
The Oracle.
Speak it into existence.
He's not the Oracle of Omaha. He's the Oracle of Cheeto Hill. But he is. Why would Trump deserve thanks for doing his job, basically? And he hasn't been doing his job at all since last January. But like, this is something that was totally expected of someone in his stature. I don't know, a president to take care of this. It's like, well, if you're doing something good and like you're doing something for good, why would you seek that reward or that recognition that you doesn't need to have,
Yeah, I don't think Trump deserved thanks at all, because from what I read, the situation in China was not as bad as people were saying. Like LiAngelo and the other two players, like they were on house arrest, but they were allowed to explore throughout the area around the hotel. So it wasn't like, oh, they were confined to a room and they couldn't leave. And if it wasn't for Trump, then they would still be in China. That's not the case. But I don't know if you guys caught LeVar Ball's CNN interview, but one of the things that he said during that interview was absolutely, it was very wise words. He said to the CNN anchor, Did you thank the doctor when he brought you into this world? And I was like, man, LeVar, you are a legend.
He's never been wrong. He really hasn't. I think we've said this before on this show. He has never been wrong. Like, in the beginning, I was very skeptical of this man because he was running out on the WWE stage, tearing his shirt off, and just yelling at everyone. And I was just like, who is this guy? But after this whole Trump debacle, I would even say I have gained a lot of respect for this guy and his business. His business is growing. I didn't think that would actually happen based on the still obscenely highly priced shoes and shirts that he has, but way to go, LeVar. You've done it.
I think it's appropriate to mention that Anaheim Ducks winger Ricard Raquel is a big baller. Follows him on Instagram. I think this is a movement that's going to be sticking around, and I have to applaud LeVar on this.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but I don't know if you guys know who LeVar Burton is from Star Trek. But no, people were
Rainbow Guy. Yeah.
People were tweeting at LeVar Burton thinking he's LeVar Ball. Like, Trump supporters were tweeting at LeVar Burton thinking he's LeVar Ball, saying that he needed to thank Trump. And I was like, man, that's just. I think personally, to me, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but like that is Trump supporters in like one tweet or in like one story right there. It is tweeting at LeVar Burton thinking he's LeVar Ball.
And we'll leave it at that. So, great stuff, you guys. When we come back, we're going to be talking about hockey, Matt. We haven't talked about hockey in a while. We will recap what... we're a little ways into the season as of right now, so we'll recap what has been going on. And we have some superlatives, everyone, some high school standouts, NHL style. We will be right back.